You're listening to the Beyond the Prophy podcast, where we help you out of career burnout so that you can reclaim your personal freedom while pursuing your passion. I'm your host, Jasmine Haley, entrepreneur, influencer, and educator that will help empower you with our interviews, strategies, and straight talks. If you're ready to push past your comfort zone to your greatness, you have found the right podcast. Stay tuned and listen in. Welcome to the Beyond the Prophy podcast. I have a very special guest today. Her name is Jackie Foskett. I've been practicing
Foskett, yes.
I've been practicing this name, and of course, I still mess it up. But I am super grateful that you're here on the podcast today because we're talking about a very, very important topic related to any service provider, just women in general, men in general. Everyone has dealt with stress and anxiety, and that is what our topic is today. And what's even more of an honor is to have you a part of this show. One, because you're author of this amazing book called Stress Relief Toolbox. I already know it's amazing because the subtitle of the book is Women Who Take Care of Everyone But Themselves. And listen, I am like, my hand is raised. You can't see me, but I have been in that situation, and we often forget to take care of ourselves. So thank you so much for being a part of the show, Jackie.
You're very welcome, and I appreciate being here, Jasmine. I'm so excited to have made this connection because, and I don't know, maybe we'll talk a little bit about this. I connected with you through Mary Jensen, yes. And I know Mary from my time working as a dental hygienist in Switzerland.
Yes,
and Yeah. So, the opportunities for me as a dental hygienist of 35 years, I retired from clinical practice in 2013, I believe it was. And so up until that point, I was 35 years in clinical practice. And I've had so many amazing opportunities as a dental hygienist that led me even to where I'm at right now of what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
so it's a great opportunity to be here. I have an affinity for my fellow dental hygienists because I was in that field for so long. And so it's really dear to my heart.
Absolutely. So tell me, what are you currently doing in dentistry, or are you outside of dentistry? Let the listeners know what your journey has been, because you kind of touched a little bit into it. For listeners that are not aware, we've interviewed Mary Jensen, and she is with High Life Oral Health Alliance. She's done some amazing work for persons who have dealt with cognitive loss and abilities as far as our senior population. And she's also had an amazing career working in Switzerland with you. So what else? Like, what has your professional journey been like, and what are you currently doing right now?
Okay, so what got me to where I am now is when I was in Switzerland working as a dental hygienist. Those first few months being in a foreign country, learning the language, learning all that you need to learn in a foreign country. And this was back in the 80s. We did not have our cell phones. We did not have anything like the internet. There was no computer, so there was nothing to go and help out. We were basically on our own. And one of the things that helped me is to read a book called Creative Visualization by Shotke Gawain. And she's kind of my original mentor. And that really helped me to visualize myself just being able to move forward in this strange environment. It really helped to ground me, I guess I could say. And so as a result, with that work and that I was doing my own inner work, I had in the back of my mind that when I got back to the States, I was going to venture out and do something in this realm of the body, mind, emotional, spirit connection. And so that's what I did. I was in Switzerland for 4 years. And when I got back, I did a holistic health counselor and educator course in San Francisco. And it was in that course that there was some hypnotherapy as one of the modules. And it really resonated with me because, again, it was about using the mind and how powerful our minds are. And so I decided that was going to be my way of utilizing the mind-body connection, of doing something outside of dental hygiene, or actually combining it. And I think it was during that time period also, I can't remember all the exact sequences, but I did actually go and get my bachelor degree in health services administration, because at that time it was really popular. It seemed like women were getting into business modalities, getting business degrees, but it really was not my thing. So I discovered that very quickly. I got my degree, but it really, it didn't appeal to me. But the mind-body stuff definitely does. So when my husband and I moved up to Seattle from San Francisco, I decided to take a course, a certification in hypnotherapy. And I was still doing dental hygiene, which then that was another whole story about, getting a license in another state. I had been practicing in California for 20 years, and then I moved up to Washington State and had to get my license, and that was quite the challenge. But I really was able to start to incorporate using relaxation techniques with my patients. In Washington at that time, there weren't as many states that hygienists could give local anesthetic. And so I was able to do that for perio work, of course. And I definitely encountered people that had needle phobia or fear. And so as a result of the training I had, I was able to support them in being much more relaxed. And when the body is relaxed, we're not tense. When there's no tension, there's much more comfort. And so this really supported my patients. And even if they weren't getting injections, people come into the dental office, as we all know, as dental hygienists, and so many of them will just pop into our operatory and say, "Oh my God, I'm so nervous. I don't like being here," and they give us those stories. And I would immediately say to them, "It's okay. I have some things I can do for you. You're in good hands. I will take good care of you. And is it okay if I guide you through some relaxation?" And there was never anybody that said no. So who doesn't want to get a little relaxation if nothing else, and especially in the dental chair, right?
Yeah,
So,
and traditionally, most of the time, what they do is they give them some sort of medication to get them completely relaxed. You don't really hear of alternative ways in which to do that for patients.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And, I certainly used nitrous on some of my patients that really wanted it, but I would also take them through relaxation because I wanted them to experience that as well, to know that they can work with their own bodies to relax and not just be dependent on the nitrous.
So tell me, what are the top 2 things that you would recommend for clinicians who want to help relax their patients in alternative ways?
Yeah, well, and I think most hygienists are good at this, but it always helps for us to remind ourselves, oh goodness, that wasn't supposed to happen. And to remind ourselves that it's our tone of voice that can be so instrumental. It's an instrument in itself, isn't it? So if we can use our voices to sound compassionate, to be compassionate, and to really show the patients that we care, that can build rapport. And I know we've all been trained in rapport, but it helps to keep reminding ourselves. It helps to push the reboot button or the refresh button and ask ourselves, okay, am I doing that? Am I, being compassionate? Am I being hurried? Because, now I'm running late and I'm feeling stressed myself. So this is why stress relief tools are not only good for the patients, they're good for the practitioner.
Absolutely. Like, we can't be the best clinician that we want to be, or just the best professional we want to be, if we forget to take care of the most important person, which is ourselves. And there's so many of us that, when we go to continuing educations, we just want to get our CE credit and go into work and do our work and get our paycheck. It's like this routine that just never ends. And yet we never really take the time to just breathe for a second, to be more mindful, to set our intention for the day, to really feed ourselves. And I learned that the hard way, which is why I've gone through this journey of really trying to transform the inner person so that I can have a more fulfilling career.
Yeah.
And just life in general.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true, Jasmine, because if we're just running around and we're just trying to make it through from one patient to the next, and I've done that myself, and I've had to stop myself and say, stop, this isn't any fun at all. And if we're on that loop, on that cycle, on that hamster wheel, how can you enjoy? Not everything about working with patients is enjoyable. That's, let's just be real here.
Yes.
So, but how can we make it so that we're not suffering about it, right? So we have to take care of ourselves. And if we can even just remember to take a couple of breaths in between each patient, that can be really significant, because it segments out from one, and it refreshes our own energy so that we're a little bit more renewed for that next patient. And then getting back to your question, though, something else for hygienists or practitioners, dentists as well, to use assistants to use with their patients, is that using that voice again, but just asking them to relax, or guiding them, and little simple things like, just go ahead and bring your focus and attention to your breathing. Because when people start to bring their focus and attention to their breathing, that disrupts all those thoughts that are coming around, looping in their minds, like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And I wonder if this is going to hurt, and all those things that patients are having in their minds, especially when they're tense, fearful, they don't like being at the dental office. So if we can tell them, just go ahead and close your eyes and just bring your attention to your breathing, and notice as you breathe in how your chest expands, your belly expands, and then as you exhale, just feel yourself sinking down into the chair. So when we use those kind of words, sinking down into the chair, it's also a trigger, a cue for the subconscious mind to start to sink down into relaxation. So it's little things like that, and even noticing where their hands are on the chair, maybe on the arms of the chair if there are arms, just telling them to bring their attention to their hands and just let their hands be very relaxed, limp, or if they're on their lap, just bringing your focus and attention to your hands on your lap, and just imagine them just being so heavily relaxed. So when we use those kinds of words, we're being, and we're giving them an invitation It's not a real command.
Right.
It's a guiding, and that allows them to do it for themselves,
Right.
rather than here they are in that position in the chair, most likely feeling somewhat helpless. And so we don't want to be just throwing commands at them. We want to be gently easing them into that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing those techniques that you mentioned. It almost makes me feel, well, it reminds me of yoga, where you're in the Shavasana, I think that's what it's called, where you're actually laying there and they're telling you to be present in your breathing and your limbs and just letting go. It's almost like a form of meditation, really.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I absolutely love, by the way. I use positive word affirmations for meditation. That's what I prefer, but I have found that it's so easy for me. I like that better. It's very easy for me to fall asleep. Which you're not supposed to do when you're going through that process of relaxation, but that's exactly where you want your patients to be. I do have a question though. Like when you were practicing that in clinical care, did you have to extend your time for those anxious patients? Was your doctor okay with you doing that? Or were you able to incorporate that into your regular standard of care for everyone?
It was generally the same time frame. There were always those patients that would have me run over. But I think because I'd been doing it long enough, and it does take practice. So I'd been doing it long enough that I could be, doing something that I needed to be setting up and talking to them, while I'm setting up or working on something on my tray, or, just getting things together and still be using that voice, still be asking them, guiding them into relaxation. So it didn't have to take a whole lot of extra time. But yeah, some people, if they were extremely anxious and I needed more time, yes. Yeah, I give the dentist or dental hygienist a script that they can read to get used to the language and certain words and the rhythm. And so if they practice that on their own, then you can be scaling teeth and still be saying, okay, now that your eyes are closed, your body's a little bit more relaxed, you even take yourself to a beautiful place in nature, or perhaps your own happy place, someplace you've been to on vacation. So you could be scaling and doing this just as we talk to our patients, right? When we're working on them, we can still now talk to them, but with a more slower voice, with that tone that is inviting them to relax, inviting them to use their imagination, to go to a happy place. And sometimes I've asked my patients, well, go ahead and describe that to me, for just a moment or two, so then I can embellish on their happy place. And so they're engaged there and they're not paying attention to what I'm doing for the most part.
So you basically are able to train clinicians and practitioners in dentistry on how to use these techniques through a course that you offer.
Yep.
Awesome. Tell us the name of the course so that people know what to ask for when they reach out to you.
What is the name of that? I've changed it a couple of times, but basically it's relaxing your anxious patients is relaxing your anxious patients.
So what led you to writing this book, Stress Relief Toolbox? Like what was your why for that?
My why was the clients that would come to see me for hypnotherapy. If it was for weight loss, if it was for fears or phobias, whatever it was, there was always this underlying stress. And as we know, stress is pretty darn prevalent in our culture. I think a lot more so than 20 years ago in my own personal experience. And so I saw the need for people to have some tools. And the majority of my clients are women. And of course, these tools work for men as well. But I wanted to address women. I wanted to niche it down into women's concerns because women are typically caregivers. A lot of women are, if they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, they're in that sandwich generation where they're still taking care of kids and they're now taking care of their elderly parents and their caregivers, and they're not taking care of themselves. And so just as we all know, everybody's been on an airplane, you hear that you have to put if you're traveling with a child, you have to put your own oxygen mask on before you give it to the child and take care of them. Otherwise, you're just going to be out of it and you can't take care of the child, right?
Absolutely.
So the same goes with whoever else we are taking care of, our children, our parents, husband, whatever it may be, partner. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I actually just wrote an article for students. Put your oxygen mask on first, because, there's so many with being in school, the stress of trying to acquire all of your requirements and taking care of your family. It can be very, very taxing. And a lot of times our students forget to take care of themselves during that process. And I share some tips with that as an educator, just seeing what they're going through and what I wish I knew when I was going through school. And so that analogy is just perfect for so many situations in our life, or personally or professionally. You've got to put that oxygen mask on first. And I mean, I think that's what's leading so many dental professionals now to feeling burnt out and wanting to leave our profession, because there's no time that we use to take care of ourselves. We're not really equipped to really discuss about those important things, because in school, our teachers have so much on their shoulders to cover all of this curriculum so that you can pass your national boards. And some of those fundamental life tips or strategies, there's no time to talk about that.
All right.
And how to handle that being a service provider.
Yeah. That's the catch-22, isn't it? And it comes down to, and I've discovered this for myself, it comes down to you making that decision that enough is enough, and it's time to do something for myself, because otherwise I just can't be performing the way I need to. So I don't know if it's about, we have to have sticky notes all over the place. We have to have reminders on our phones, notifications. There's so many apps now that people can tune into that say stop and breathe, for a few minutes. We're living at such fast pace, whether in school or outside of school or in practice. And we have to really thrive, not survive, but thrive as human beings. We really have to make that decision to take care of ourselves, to have this self-care in place, even if it's in little increments.
Yes. Oh, I love that you said thrive, because it's very easy for us. And, I have been one of those people where you're just going through your day to day. It's almost like as if you're on autopilot and you're not experiencing life. And just recently, there's been a death of a young mother that celebrity that really, woke me up. And then so many other people within our own dental community who have lost a child or lost a grandchild way too early. Any death, no matter what time period it is a struggle and difficulty. But when you hear of young people that are 6, 7 years old or 13 years old, it's like we really we're not guaranteed another day.
That's right.
And there's so many of us that are not even living with that in mind. We're just going about the day and not truly thriving, like you said. So I love that word choice because it sounds full of life. And that's what we need to be. You know, our patients want us to be that way. Our family wants us to be that way. But yet we don't take care of ourselves enough. And a lot of the anxiety that our patients feel could also be brought on by our own energy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm laughing because I can remember times myself, you know, I never seemed to have enough time. I could, you know, spend 2 hours sometimes if I was let to my own devices on doing a prophy and talking with patients and stuff. So, you know, I'd typically be not, you know, running right on the clock. And that to me was stressful.
Yeah.
And I know that there were times, you know, when I was really behind and, you know, I didn't like that. So, you know, I did my best to not be that far behind, but sometimes things happen and you get behind. And I know the energy that I was carrying when I would walk into the room for the next patient. And it's like, oh, well, that's not good. So, you know, I really had to put the brakes on that and really take those few deep breaths and do my best, because otherwise I know that energy was just like spilling out all over that patient, and it's a negative energy and they don't need to have it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So here's my final question for you.
Okay.
Our episodes are a little short because we know people's attention spans aren't great nowadays. But the question I always ask every single guest of the show is, what was the best career advice you've ever received?
I can tell you. I was practicing, I guess I was about 5 or 6 years at the time in Southern California. And I had learned about the opportunity to go work in Switzerland. And you know, I contemplated it, I looked at it, I don't know, you know, whatever research I could do at that time, because I couldn't go online. There was no such thing. And I just remember.
What did you do? How did you live?
I know. I don't know anymore how I did it. But I remember talking with one of my patients about, oh my gosh, there's all these things to do. There's so many, I don't know. I don't think I can do this. And she said to me, and now she wasn't a career counselor and she was a patient. And she said to me, Jackie, they're only details. You can do them. And it just kind of was the light bulb that went off that I thought, oh, okay. I can. They're just details. They'll step by step. I can do it. And because of that, I had the most amazing experience of living 4 years in Switzerland, working for a Swiss dentist, meeting lots of other American and Canadian hygienists, and getting to travel all over Europe and Africa. So yeah, I would say that was probably the one of the because I take Switzerland's in my heart, and that time and that period is always there with me. So I really think that is the best advice I ever got.
I love that because so many of us, I've done it before, but so many of us are caught by the analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Don't make a move because we want to know every single detail. And a lot of times you just got to start. You got to start. I love it. All right. So where can people first, I want people to know where to get your book. Because I know there are going to be some people that are interested in reading that. And how can they contact you to find out more information about the work that you do? Okay.
The book, The Stress Relief Toolbox for Women Who Take Care of Everyone But Themselves, is on Amazon. It's as a print book or a Kindle book. And if you're a Prime member, you can get it for $10.95. If you're not a Prime member, it's $12.95. And I think the Kindle is $6.99. So Amazon.com, simple, easy. by Jackie Foskett. And then you can contact me, Jackie, at JackieFoskett.com. And my last name is spelled, and well, I should spell my first name because Jackies are spelled all sorts of different ways. Jackie at JACKIE Foskett, F as in Frank, O S as in Sam, KETT.com. And my website is healinghypnotherapy.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing today. I know you've had quite an amazing experience. There's a lot of work that you do, but I think there's definitely some pearls that we had within our conversation that could definitely benefit our listeners today.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on, Jasmine. And yes, I would love to hear from any of your listeners about how I might support them in using these tools with their patients.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Thanks for tuning in to the show. We value each and every one of you. Dive in deeper by visiting the show notes for this episode or listening to more episodes on beyondtheprophy.com. If you found value in the show, share with a friend and leave us a review. We will see you next time, BTP family.